Alright, let's get this thing back together. And I think this would be a good time to put the big axle nut back on, just so we don't forget it. Bought this 1 3/8 socket for $20. Who knows if I'll ever use it again. But I also bought some adapters to go from 1/2 inch to 3/4, and I know I'll use them a lot. Now let's put on our rotor. By the way, I'm not putting on parking brake shoes because I didn't even have any. So we'll put on our rotor. Now we'll put on our brake caliper. And you might have to push back these spacers that the rotor caliper bolts go through to get this on. You may or may not have to. Sometimes you have to tap it. Sometimes it's because you don't have something aligned perfectly. So make sure you check everything out and make sure you're doing it properly before you start forcing stuff. Alright, let me just squeeze this one brake pad back a little bit. I suppose I should take the brake pad out. I shouldn't use the pliers on the brake pad itself, but I'm feeling lucky today. Just squeeze that just a little bit. Doesn't take much pressure. And let's see if we can get this into place here. There we go. It's easy to put the top in first. It's pretty obvious now that I looked at that. Okay, now we'll put in our caliper bolts. They got a number 10 head on them. So we'll get a number 10 socket, a 10 millimeter socket, and tighten them up. At this point, we're pretty much done with this job. And it's really easy to get really excited about taking it for road test and being done. So this is a danger point. You want to do at this point is make sure you got all your major bolts. Got your bolts in and your nuts on, and I'm not doing it in this case, but do as I say, not as I do, to the proper torques. Now this vehicle didn't have that many bolts, major bolts holding on, but we got our nut that holds on our hub, and our axle to our hub, and we got our upper ball joint nut on our pinch bolt. We have our pinch bolt on our toe compensation link on the bottom part, and we have our nut and bolt in on the very bottom part that goes to the lower control arm, and it's also tightened up with the nut on our toe compensation link in the center. That's all the major bolts. Just go through everything. Make sure you didn't miss anything. Make sure you didn't leave a tool laying somewhere. Make sure everything is done correctly. I know it's really, at this point, you really want to get going and see the results of your work, but spend some time, just check everything over, make sure everything's right. Like I said, we also had our bolts in for holding our caliper on, so everything should be good. I'll spin the rotor here. Seems to work pretty good. All right. A little bit of noise on the brakes. There always is once you take something apart and put it back together, but I don't hear any bearing noise. So let's get a wheel on this and we will take her for a drive. All right, sports fans, here it is, the moment of truth, the test drive. Always the most fun and most nerve-wracking part, I suppose. This is where you find out if you did anything wrong or forgot to do something, or if your repair didn't solve the problem you were hoping to solve. Now, before I put we did 2 repairs here. Exhaust and rear wheel bearings. And before I did them, you couldn't even hardly hear yourself inside this vehicle. So we'll see what the difference is now. You always had to turn the radio up way loud. The bearing noise can't overpowered the exhaust noise, but even if the bearings were good, then the exhaust would have been bugging you. So we'll take this down the road here. I'm going to go for an extended test drive today. I'm not going to video all of it, but we'll video it till I get up to speed here, and I'll video again if I have any other problems if not, if I don't have any problems, you won't be seeing me here on video until I pull back in the garage and we do some final things like putting the spare tire up where it belongs and doing a recap of the job. But we're up to 55 miles an hour right now, and I can't really hear a thing compared to the way it used to be. There's significantly quieter. So, well, I'm going to take this. I'm going to drive this probably for at least 20 miles here and just make sure everything's okay. So, I'll get back to you a little bit later. All right, sports fans, there you have it. The job is done. What can I say about it now that it's done? How long would it take? An experienced mechanic with a full shop could probably do this job in an afternoon. A homeowner with a good shop and some tools and some experience could probably do this job in a day, okay? Realistically, homeowner with a shop, some tools and some experience, and allowing for the fact that you run into some unforeseen problems, you'll easily be able to get it done in a weekend, okay? Unforeseen things, backing plate, I had to buy one of those, and it only comes in sets of 2, so that was $80. Actually, it's darn close to $100 that I didn't expect to pay. I bought this new toe compensator link. All I really needed was the boot on this end, but it was just $27 for the whole link, so I bought it that way. And also this snap ring I destroyed trying to remove it, so I had to order that, and that was about, I think that was about $8 or $9. So waiting for the shipping on those items is what slowed me down, and had the trucks just sitting in the shop torn apart for a few days. Other than that, it wasn't too bad a job. I'm going to say tool-wise, what did I use for tools? Pretty much what you see laying on the ground here. And by the way, when you watch other repair videos and they give a list of tools that you'll need, 99 out of 100 times you're going to need more, because you'll run into some little unexpected problem where something's seized up on yours, or something's broken on yours, or something's different on yours that makes things a little bit more difficult. So, you know, a good assortment of tools is a must, but also a press. It's just a must-have for a job like this. And boy, if you're willing to tackle a job like this, you're probably willing to tackle others. So I just couldn't recommend buying the press enough. Like I said, my mom owned this vehicle, and 10 years ago she had this job done, and they charged her $1,500. My total cost on this, if all I needed to do was replace the bearings, would have been about $40. But I did spend $80 plus about $30, so 40 to 30 is 70 plus 80. I spent about $150 on parts on this job. Not too bad. 1/10 of what she paid, and I did both sides. It looks like she only had one side done. So a press is about $190, and it's just totally, it's a must-have for something like this. The job could, if you're hell-bent on doing it without a press, it is possible. You can punch the insides of these bearings, the inner races out. They'll come out when you pound out the hub, and then you can cut this inner race with a diamond blade on a sawzall, and then you'll be able to punch it out with a punch and a hammer. But boy, it's a lot of swinging and a lot of hammer hitting, and I got tennis elbow pretty bad from doing a job before, so I was going to attempt to do it without a press, but I got a little bit in the job, and I got to use a press. So I just couldn't recommend that enough. And this is so many other things. What came in handy for me too was a torch. I had a couple bolts that were very difficult to loosen up, so I had to resort to heating them with a torch. Torch is a good thing to have. I suppose you could get by the propane torch or a MAPP gas torch, but if you do any amount of work at all, that's going to be on your wish list of things to get. A acetylene torch, it's just a lifesaver over and over and over again. The other thing is with the press, I bought the pucks and the sleeves, and I just can't recommend that enough. Your press really isn't much good unless you have something to press with. Looks like we got a storm coming in. So we might have some wind noise on the camera right now. That's just about all I have for this one, sports fans. If you like this video, I'd appreciate it if you like, share, and subscribe. You know, do all things it takes to make this the #1 channel on YouTube. Until next time, we'll see you here on the Fix Yourself channel.